football podcasts on the internet. And now you get to ignore every single one. This is the Houndstooth Podcast. Real talk from real fans. We gump to a standard around here. Recapping the Alabama Crimson Tide and college football from around the SEC and across the nation. This is the Houndstooth Podcast. And here are your hosts, Bill Sylvie, Jessica Brand, John Henry, and Bo Ganora.
Hey folks, hopefully you can hear us. I am currently having some technical issues right now with my audio. I cannot hear my partner, Bo Ganora.
That's because I'm not talking yet.
That. I'm going to continue to work on it. Bo, I don't know if you can hear me, but it's your plane, sir, while I try and remedy this.
Okay. Well, I can hear you just fine. But evidently you can't hear me, so let's say. All right, so, there was only one game last week, and I've watched it once, and that was enough. But honestly, I can't feel too disappointed about the effort that was given, and they didn't quit, and to be ahead in the fourth quarter and in it up until 4 minutes to go with all the injuries was quite impressive. I think it was a good coaching job. I think Coach Saban has done a magnificent job with this group of young players.
I agree with you, Bo. I've got my audio back, and I apologize to our viewer if I sound like I'm coming from the bottom of a plastic cup. My righteous studio setup decided to wet the bed, and so I'm using my gaming headset right now.
Isn't that always the case?
It is. It's like it saved it for this last issue. We've actually got a couple of games to get to, and I think we can talk about the good before we get to the bad, because Alabama did put a shellacking on the Bearcats. A lot of people talked about the Bearcats coming in as a G5 powerhouse, and I want to give props to my friend Rusty, who was with us for the pregame show before that, and he said something that I thought was very on point. It was not just fan bragging. In the last 2 years, the Cincinnati Bearcats have lost 2 football games, only 2 football games, and they've lost to the number 1 teams in the country both times. That's it.
That's actually pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive. And he and I talked about it. Now, I live in Central Florida, so there might be a suspicion that I'm a sideline UCF homer, and nothing could be further from the truth. I'm not. UCF is a fine school, and it has fine programs and fine students. I'm not a fan.
No, wait, you're not hanging out at the Waffle House with Gus?
I know, the Waffle House down on Colonial and University. I'm not going down there to rub elbows with Gus of Malzahn.
Did you put the sign up by the restroom?
No, I'm going to do it this year, I promise. But anyway, You put UCF in that same situation the year that they were claiming to be co-national champions with Alabama. They couldn't have held themselves together like Cincy did against Georgia and Alabama. And I know 27-6 is not precisely holding oneself together. In fact, I saw a rather humorous stat that said Slade Bolden's opening touchdown against Cincinnati was the winning TD.
Technically, that's correct.
The best kind of correct.
Yeah.
So, So we'll just I'll run down the stats. We'll talk about the good. We'll get to the bad. And we're talking about Cincinnati now. We're going all the way back to the Cincinnati game, the semifinal. Bryce was 17 for 28, 181 yards, averaging 6.5, 3 touchdowns, 1 int, QBR of 72.4. Now, the interesting thing about this, tell me about, what did you think of O'Brien committing to the run right from the get-go?
That first drive, I would absolutely loved it. I was salivating. I'm like, yeah, run it again. As much as I like Bryce Young, and he's great, it was just, it was nostalgic, right?
It was 2011 football.
Yes, it was. And it's like, okay, if this is what you want to do, have some more. It was great. I loved it.
You guys want to play in your grill, smash mouth football? Yeah, we can do that too. As we'll see, it didn't quite work out against Georgia. I mean, I think it did pretty good against Georgia. And honestly, we lost that game in the last 4 minutes.
Right.
But we lost it clean, but we'll get to that. So Cincy, B-Rob, 26 carries, 204 yards on his broad shoulders.
Yeah, he got the bowl record for Alabama rushing, which was great. I was glad to see him get that. He deserves it. If anybody deserves it, that young man deserves it.
Absolutely. Trey Sanders, 14 for 67. Jamo ran once, which was terrifying to see. 18 yards on a single run, and Bryce, they brought some pressure on Bryce. He had to move his feet. There were times when Bryce did not look comfortable back in the pocket. 6 carries, 12 yards. So as a team, we had 301 yards on the ground, which was quite a reversal. Like I said, pure nostalgia for 2011 style football. Now on receiving, now, you probably know the stats, and our listeners probably know the stats. But at a glance, if you were not a numbers guy, who would you say had the highest yards, not the highest number of receptions, the highest yards for the game on receptions? You might think, and you'd be forgiven for saying, oh, well, it's Jamo. He had 7 receptions. Ja'Cory Brooks, 4 receptions, 66 yards, 16 and a half, 1 touchdown with a long of 44. Jamo, 7 for 62, averaging 8.9. No touchdowns with a long of just 20. Slade the Blade, 3 for 31, touchdown, 1, longest was 16. Jaleel Billingsley, 1 for 12. Cameron Latu, 1 for 9. And Trey Sanders had a little dinky screen, 1 for 1. 181 yards in the air. Defensive, we looked positively dominant on defense. Brian Branch was our lead guy. 8 tackles, 6 by himself, a half a sack, a half a tackle for loss. Jordan Battle, 7, 6 solo. Will Anderson, 6, 2 solo, 2 sacks, 2 tackle for losses. Now, I don't know how ESPN, you can let me know if I got this wrong, but I don't know how ESPN divides up their stats, if they're counting sacks and tackle for losses the same, or did he in fact have four tackles in the backfield?
I think they count them separately.
Okay, so 4 tackles in the backfield for Anderson. Helms looked good. Toto looked good. McKinstry. We were firing on all defensive cylinders. So we had 6 sacks. Poor Desmond Ridder spent most of the game staring at the stadium lights. But hey, you didn't get hurt, kid. So 56 total, 28 solo, 6 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss. 2 quarterback hurries. No interceptions. Slade Bolden and JoJo Earle had a total of minus 8 yards on punt returns, but that's okay. That's just fine. That's the we don't risk our men getting hurt, which unfortunately
just fair catch the stupid thing,
honest to God. I mean, Reichert looked good. 3 extra points, 2 field goals. I feel like Will Reichert is, he's definitely the salve for 5 years, 6 years of poor kicking that Alabama suffered. Which is not to take away from Adam Griffith, because if you want to talk about that one play that Auburn will tout from now to the heat death of the universe, you also have to talk about the onside kick.
Yes.
Would you have wanted any other man that night? I wouldn't have.
Nope. Neither kicking or catching.
So in the overall, the game against the Bearcats looked good. High Tide, I'm gonna. I know it's been popular to talk about terrible, awful, horrible Slade Bolden. I will just say that Slade's touchdown catch at the beginning of the game was a high water mark for me. Anyway, as a fan. Elephant stomp moment was the stop. Right when Cincy was starting to build up a drive. I don't know what it was that Saban and Bluto came out. I don't know what they said, because Cincy was marching. Cincy was just...
Are you talking about when they called timeout there?
That's exactly it.
Since he was on like the 6 or something.
Yeah, I don't know what voodoo they worked. I don't know what Santeria spell they performed on the sideline during that timeout. But from that point forward, the defense just shut them down. There was no more of that nonsense.
Yeah.
Since he never mounted a drive after that. And again, it's easy to take the standpoint of, well, he went out there and he yelled at them and said, "Come on, men, get it together." And then they got it together. Honestly, I just think it was scheme. I think I just think Saban looked at it and said, "Oh, I know what they're doing. I know how they're running, and I know how they're going to structure this. Guys, we practice against this."
They made some sort of adjustment there, and it worked. It obviously worked.
So, yeah, that stop was my elephant stomp, because if they'd gone up 10-3, or if they'd gone up 7-7 at that point, and it would have been a long, sloggy afternoon.
So have we decided? I mean, are we gonna keep Golding? We're not gonna fire him, right?
No, Golding's sticking around.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm okay with, and when we talk about the Georgia game, I'll talk a little bit more about why. But I have no problems with Pete Golding's performance during this game. Like I said, he did something. He dialed up something. He talked to assistants in the booth. Nick came over and talked to him. Pete Golding stopped Cincinnati right then, right there. So, low tide. John Mechie.
Oh, yeah. Mechie going down was definitely the low tide.
Look, for anyone who cruises by and listens to this in the aftermath of it, I know we don't really have a live audience right now, but One thing I'm never going to do is fall for the trap that our friends over in Houston or wherever the hell the University of Texas is located at and start wailing, if we hadn't lost Mechie, if Mechie hadn't gotten hurt, y'all.
That's hilarious because Bill cares so little about Texas. He doesn't even know where they're located.
I don't. They're all I hear about is how huge Texas is. How am I supposed to keep track of what's in there?
Well, the team that's actually in Houston might have been a better team than the one that Texas is in Austin.
That's true. No, I mean, the refrain, and to this day, like I've had Texas fans tell me, "Well, no, it's true. If Colt hadn't gotten hurt, Alabama loses." No, they don't.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to fall for that trap and say if John Mechie hadn't gotten hurt, we would have won the national champion. No.
Injuries happen, and you have to play through it. It's just, I hate it for the guys to get hurt. I hated it for Mechie. It just was, and I hated it for Jamo. We'll talk about that later, but
yeah. But losing Mechie was definitely the low point in the game. So, what do you got? Talk some positivity before we get to the negativity.
I'm with you there on the elephant stomp and on the low tide, but my high tide was the running game. That first drive, just run it down their throats and just keep running it until they can stop it, and they didn't. And yes, let's do that. B-Rob, he showed out.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I just feel like, it was just a by the numbers game. And I tried to explain to someone, and we actually got a little heated about this because I said, yeah, during this game, during that game, Nick's not going to show anybody other than the first couple of pages of the playbook.
Yeah, it was very vanilla.
Yeah.
Especially with the there was a matchup there between the running game and their front, because they run a 3-3-5, right?
Yeah.
And that stack was it's built to cover the spread. It's built to stop the modern spread offense, crazy, passes over the middle, that type of thing. It doesn't do well against a power run game, and it just didn't surprise me that they just went to the ground, So I was glad to see that, because it's been a while since we've actually seen that executed that well. I mean, I was trying to think back when the last time we saw a ground game that was executed that well, and I can't think of when it was. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, again, I said to a friend, some teams do throwback uniforms. We did a throwback scheme.
We did a throwback offense.
We did a throwback offense. But to go to what I was saying earlier about explaining to a friend, yeah, no, they, Nick's not going to show them the whole playbook, and we really got into it, and he wasn't understanding where I was coming from. I don't think, and I'm not calling. This is not a public call out. I'm not gonna, so don't at me. But the debate coming up that we had was, what do you mean? You mean he's not playing his best plays? He's going to deliberately lose games? He's going to tell guys not to play good plays? And I said, no. If you don't have to, don't.
Exactly.
I mean, if you don't. If you don't have to show everything that you need to show, then don't. I'm gonna get in trouble with some of the uniform folks for comparing sports to military activity, and I apologize in advance for that. But in the Air Force or in the Navy or even in the Army or Marines, when you have certain pieces of equipment, certain radar sensors and jammers and stuff like that, and you come up against a hostile nation, but one you're not at war with, Cold War, think Russia, the Soviet Union, you're in your brand new fighter jet or a new revision of the fighter jet, you don't switch the radar on to all modes. You don't broadcast all of your modes, because they're watching that, they're sensing that, they're picking that up and writing it. Oh, okay, it's this wavelength and it's this frequency and it's this, they're scanning us like this. Well, we'll come up with a defense for that. You don't show it to the enemy if you don't have to. And against Cincinnati, we simply didn't have to. And there are teams that we didn't have to scheme against. I wish we'd schemed. I wish we'd run some razzle dazzle against A&M earlier in the season, and I feel like we probably did. We probably at that point probably showed all the developments we had, and we just got out schemed. We just got outplayed.
Yeah, with the mismatch there was no need to run more than a quarter of the playbook.
Exactly.
And definitely, we're not pulling out any trick plays for Cincinnati when you're winning like that. So it was very reminiscent of the Notre Dame game the year prior. It was just, very vanilla. There's no need to do anything fancy. We're just gonna take care of business and go home.
Yeah. Exactly. So, we ran a very simple offense against a very standard. I'm not going to call them simple, and I'm not going to call them weak. I want to end, not really end. We can continue discussing them. We've got a whole 45 minutes or so, but I want to highlight and compliment Cincinnati for getting where they got. So I'm not going to call them simple or weak or easily confused or anything like that. No, they punched at their weight. When they played Notre Dame, they punched above their weight. They came into a playoff game with a shot at a national title. And I'll be honest with you, Bo, the way this season has gone, I came into this game with no expectations.
Yeah, same here.
I came into the Cincy, Alabama game in complete free fall. Just what happens.
Yeah, same. After the SEC championship game, I was just like, okay, we're playing with house money now, and whatever happens. And it was actually kind of nice to watch games with that attitude, as opposed to last year, where it was like, you really expect them to not only win, but win in a dominant fashion.
Exactly.
Because they've just done it all year.
Wasn't it in its way refreshing?
It was, very much so.
I mean, I came into the Georgia game with no expectations. Look, was I sad? Yes. But I said before the game, I said, look, there's a game tonight. Then we have a long resting and practice period, and then there's a scrimmage in April that will be broadcast. And then we have a long resting and practice period, and then there's another game, I think September 20th, something like that. And
yeah, I think so.
And that's how football goes.
Yeah.
And then we'll play a game every week until we hit our bye, and then we'll play some more games, and then lather, rinse, repeat. I just didn't get into the hair pulling, freaking out, hand wringing. I had the stream up for the Georgia game. I was like, I got a feeling I know how this is. I was pleasantly surprised for the majority of the Georgia game. I thought going into the fourth quarter, we can probably hold on to this. And then I saw things start to happen at the beginning of the fourth quarter and said, okay, this is probably not going to work out to a W. But I didn't I didn't go into like a panic state at kickoff.
Right.
But
like
anyway,
you usually do.
Moi? John Alford has our first comment of the night and says, I'm proud of the team after the air went out with Jamo's injury. Absolutely. I'm very proud of this team. Look, this Alabama squad has been challenged all season. It hasn't been the joyless murder ball that we have enjoyed season in and season out, even on losing seasons where it's like 11 games of joyless murder ball. Shit, we lost a close game and never got our feet out from under us. All season long, it was like, what even is this team? What is going on here? What is happening here?
I'm just sitting here thinking, it's like, okay, so 11-2 is a losing season now. I mean, we really are spoiled as fans. It's been ridiculous. This year was supposed to be a rebuilding year, right?
Exactly.
Considering how much they lost from the team last year,
Yes.
Just a ridiculous, and not just the amount; it was who they lost. Right? You lost Mac, right? You lost your Heisman Trophy winner receiver, and you lost Waddle, who knows if he had been healthy, he may have won the Heisman. Who knows? But and then it's like, okay, well, this year's a rebuilding year. And it's a bunch of young guys, and we're breaking in a new quarterback, even though he's been there a year. He didn't get to play a lot, the year before. So I felt like, if they win the West, they'll be doing great. And then they won the SEC again over Georgia, who had just basically dominated everybody all year long, and made the playoffs. And now they're the number one seed. It's like, holy crap, this team has overperformed really from what they should have done. How can you be disappointed in that?
Exactly, dude. And I mean, we took a stock Nova down to the track on a Saturday and beat the pants off of every Corvette and Charger and Firebird that we raced,
Yeah.
But that's I think that's a larger philosophical discussion, maybe for the back half of the second half. But I do want to get into our trivia. I remember our trivia from the last episode, and I didn't prepare a trivia for this one. We'll do one for A-Day. We'll do a trivia for A-Day. So our trivia last time was, the question was, Alabama had played Cincinnati prior to this meeting 5 times in the past, with Alabama winning every game. Now, I do believe John Henry, who is away on business tonight, and we wish you safe travels, John. Sorry, I just had to bring up some notes here. At any rate, Alabama has played Cincinnati a number of times. The last time they played was in 1990. What was the score? Do you know this one? Did you look this one up?
I did not know.
I did not know this one, but the score of that game, it was 1990. They played in Birmingham. Gene Stallings was coach. We beat Cincinnati 45-7.
Oh, okay.
Yep, 45-7. And I think the game that John said he was at was actually the prior one. Ray Perkins was our coach. It was 85, and it was 45-10. So, with all due respect to the Bearcats, we've taken you all to the woodshed a number of times. And the first game, all the way back in 1908, was a tie.
Really?
Okay. Yes, it is listed as being a tie.
The real question is, did we beat Swanee that year?
I don't know. I'll have to look that one. Oh, my mistake. No. I was my eyes deceived me. They flicked down. No, we beat them then too. The 1908 was 16-0. Then 82, Bear was coach, of course, 21-3. Then Ray Perkins, 29-7. Then 45-10. Then 45-7. And then 27-6. So on that graph, Cincinnati fans, by 2050 or 2060, you guys are due for a win. The curve is set to cross the line by my math right around that.
Well, they played 6 times, and Cincinnati scored a total of 3 touchdowns. So,
yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but no, I I think that illustrated the argument of including the G5. I felt like that they had done enough to be included this year because I didn't see anybody behind them that had done enough to be in over them. But that's not going to be true every year. And now you see what happened when they do get included. So who knows how that's going to flavor the discussion going forward. Of course, if they do the expansion like they're talking about, we'll probably see a lot. We'll probably see a few more G5s, in there, and at least in the early rounds.
Yeah, and is it next year or the year after? I can't remember. They're actually going to Big 12.
Yes.
Cincinnati will become a Big 12 team, and
Yes,
I wish them all the luck in the world. This is the last thing I'm going to say on that, because we do need to rip the Band-Aid off here. Luke Fickel, you guys, you did an outstanding job. If they maintain this degree of football acumen, if they go out and they play like this next season and the season after and the season, then absolutely they should be. Now they'll be in contention once they get to the Big 12. They'll be a Power 5 team.
True.
And if they play like this consistently, good. I want to see them beat the crap out of Ohio State. I want to see them beat Michigan. I want to see Cincinnati do good things. So Godspeed to the Bearcats. Well played. You deserved to be there, and maybe we'll see you again next season. Now, unfortunately, that halftime is over, unless you have any other thoughts on Cincinnati.
No, I'm good. I'll just make the comment that prior to the playoffs, my wife, being an Auburn fan, stopped caring about football after they lost in overtime in the Iron Bowl. So she's like, well, who's in the playoffs? I'm like, well, it's Alabama and Michigan and Georgia and Cincinnati. And she said, Cincinnati, Ohio? I'm like, yeah. And she said, oh, I didn't even know they had a football team. So like, yeah, they do. They're actually pretty good this year. So,
well, hey, one of my favorite shows of all time, if not my favorite show of all time, is WKRP in Cincinnati. So, let's do the needful thing. Let's talk about the national championship game, the number 1 rated Alabama Crimson Tide versus the number 3 rated Georgia Bulldogs in Indianapolis. And my first thought is hats off to ESPN for outstanding camera work and their ability to make Indianapolis look good.
Yeah, that was tough, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that they would have done any less of a great job. Like if for some freaking reason they had said, you know what, we're going to play the national title game in Gadsden, Alabama. In the Etowah County High School football stadium. That's what we're going to do. The ESPN guys would be, oh God, we've got to, okay, cameras up at Nakalulu Falls.
Yep.
We'll get some nice shots of the Henry Neely Dam. That's all we got. That's it. That's literally it. This town sucks. And don't at me. I lived there as a child. I know how awful Gadsden is. But anyway, yeah. So hats off to ESPN. Bryce Young was 35 of 57 for 369 yards. Excellent performance, Bryce. Averaging 6.5, one touchdown, unfortunately 2 interceptions with a QBR of 82.3. That is, in all metrics, better than Stetson Bennett's performance.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson was our man on the ground. We committed to the run early that game, too. 22 carries for 68 yards, averaging 3.1. No touchdowns, though. Long run of 16. Trey Sanders, 2 for 5, along with 4. Bryce was pressured repeatedly and sacked repeatedly. I don't want to say this number, but minus 43 yards.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot. Average of minus 10.5. Receiving Cameron Latu, 5 for 102 with 20.4, a touchdown, and a long of 61. Jamison Williams, 4 for 65, averaging 16.3, long 40. A Guy Hall, 2 for 52, 26 average, long of 28. We're going to come back to Mr. Hall. I have some thoughts. Ja'Cory Brooks, 6 for 47 with a long of 20. Slade Bolden, 7 for 44, long of 6.3. Good show, Slade. Long of 11 for him. B-Rob, 4 for 28. Average of 12, obviously. I'm sorry, long of 12, but me no math good. Trayshawn Holden, 6 for 28. Trey Sanders, 1 for 3. Again, 369 yards receiving. Good show. Slade fumbled 1, but he got it back. Defensively, we looked okay defensively. We had 5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 50 tackles total. 32 of those were solo. No quarterback hurries, though. We did not bring the pressure, I thought. JoJo Earl had a good kick run back, 24 yards. Slade, he caught 1 punt. Will Reichert was 4 for 5 on field goals, which we needed. So,
yes.
Well done, Will. Punting, Burnip looked pretty good. Long of 43, 2 inside the 20. High tide for this game for Alabama. I would say, as crazy as this is going to sound, the high tide was just getting here. I hate to say we're just happy to be here, but getting out there after all they've been through this season. But to focus on the game, to focus on the game, I would have to say that the high tide was Bryce Young's passing, and I know a lot of people might say, but the interceptions, guys, he played the hand he was dealt, and he did the best he could. So
yeah.
Bryce gets my high tide. Elephant stomp moment. Precious little of that. Probably Latu.
Probably. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That
Latu breaking off that run for 61 yards was. I'm sorry. The 61-yard reception. God, I wish we'd had a 61-yard run. The 61-yard reception by Latu. Low tide. I don't need to say it. Was Jamison Williams getting injured?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
and that, and then the if Jamo hadn't got hurt, it would have been the pick 6 at the end. But honestly, I don't really count that one. They were in desperation mode. They were, he was throwing it up there. Things like that happen. It makes the score for Georgia look better than it actually was.
Yeah, let's be 100% clear. I'm gonna throw some salt, some shade, some poison, some rat poison at Georgia here in just a minute. But let's be clear. That was not a kick six type situation.
No.
All right. That was a last desperate gasp in a game that was effectively already lost.
Yeah.
And I hate to phrase it that way, to take anything away. So, Bulldog fans, your 15-point win was a touchdown at best.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Georgia either, because it was their year. This the best year they've had. Well, it was the best year that the state of Georgia's had since Johnny won that fiddling contest, because the Braves won the World Series and Georgia wins the national championship. So, I mean, the only downer is they're still stuck with the Falcons. So,
yeah, well, hope springs eternal, right? I mean, it's not going to happen this season.
No, she doesn't, because she moved over to College Station. Did you not see?
I'll watch it later. It came up in my recommendations. I'll watch it. There's some of this that is too sore to touch still, so I don't want to. Yeah. Look, let me tell you what. The kids over at SEC Shorts are outstanding.
Oh yeah, it was good.
Even when we got scared. And hey, you've watched Matt Mitchell's SEC Roundup, right?
I did. I watched it.
yeah. I love all of it, all of his little contributions. And I don't know why. I mean, Matt and everybody on SEC Shorts are also, as far as I know, on It's a Southern Thing. So why they're not merging their talents? Maybe they just don't want to. But I like them both. I like Matt's show both. But I haven't brought myself to watch the SEC Shorts for that.
Do you think, and this is just kind of a side note, but do you think it's driving all the Georgia fans nuts that we're not more upset that we lost?
I hope so. I mean, my attitude has been, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm angrier about the quitter hole, and I've got a whole rant ready for that.
I figured that. I'm more upset that Jamo got hurt than I am that we lost the game.
Yeah,
honestly, Yeah. Because I hate it for that kid. I hope it doesn't affect his draft stock. He's got enough tape out there that it's an ACL injury. Those can be 100% recovery type situations. It's not like he fractured his leg in 6 places and had to have a knee replacement. So, I'm more upset about that than I am the fact that we lost the game, because you knew eventually Georgia was going to get there. It just took them 41 years, and it's not. And getting there is a lot easier than staying there. So we'll see. Right?
Yes, Georgia. I'll be 94 years old before you win your next ball game. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Your next national championship, rather.
So one of my Georgia friends texted me, go Dogs and all this other stuff, and I'm all like, hey, congrats, it's about time. I'm like, you're not going to wait another 41 years, are you? And he's like, no, hopefully not. And he said, he's like, I'm surprised you guys aren't more upset you lost. And I said, well, when you've already got 6 Ferraris, missing out on the opportunity to have 7 Ferraris is not that big of a deal. So.
Yeah. And I mean, it really is the case. It was just so to touch on what we had a little bit earlier in the stream. I had no expectations, none, for this season, as janky as we got in the back half of I was just like, and I've said it on this live stream. What even is this team? Okay, all right, you went into 4 overtimes against a depleted Auburn, but you still won. Woohoo! Awesome. Okay, I guess we're gonna get demolished against. we demolished Georgia in the SECCG, So honestly, I had no expectations, and we won against, we won our playoff game.
Yeah.
And we beat Georgia, who were supposed to steamroll us, and then we didn't.
Exactly.
It wasn't a shellacking. We didn't go in and Georgia was like, we beat you guys 99-0, and it's such a deficit. It was just another football game.
Yeah, the game was still up in the air with 4 minutes left. So, yeah. I mean, there were 2 undefeated teams at the end of the regular season last year, and Alabama beat both of them back to back.
Yeah.
So that's not anything to sneeze at.
And a rebuilding Alabama Crimson Tide, we don't do well in our rebuilding years. People say, oh, mathematically Alabama's won a title every other year. Well, yeah, it's because that other year has been the rebuilding year.
Yeah, it's really hard to repeat in college football. That's why there's only been very few.
Yeah.
And there has never been a three-peat, correct?
No, Jess got me on this, and we hope you're feeling better, Jess. But Army.
Oh,
back in like 46.
Okay, so there hasn't been a three-peat in modern poll era football.
Yeah, there has not been. I am entirely certain that Army will not see the high side of a national title run for a long time.
Yeah.
I have no enmity towards Bulldogs fans. I still will refer to Kirby Smart as great value Lane Kiffin.
I thought it was Big Lots Bama. Or is that just Kirby that's great value?
Just Kirby is great value Lane Kiffin. I still don't respect Kirby for that, taking recruit data with him and then posting up a picture of him taking a picture of the recruit data before he left Alabama. That was a shitty thing to do. I know it was 8 years ago, but it was still a shitty thing to do. So no respect from me. Respect for the team.
Yeah.
I mean, respect.
He's got the same haircut he had then, though. So.
Yes, he does. Well, I think he probably buys them in bulk. He probably he just goes down and they're just like
the Costco.
Yeah,
the Kirby special at Costco.
Goes down to the haircutting place in the Costco. Good morning, Mr. Smart. Same haircut. You know it. Oh, and what was with Kirby? Maybe I never noticed it before, but him putting that clipped basso profundo drawl like he's trying to sound like Nick.
I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I didn't listen to much of the lead up to the game or much of what happened after it, so. I mean, evidently didn't hear that.
Yeah, just in interviews before that, like he's trying to put a little Nick Saban in the mix as he's talking there, and he sounded
didn't say height, did he?
I did not hear height, but it came off as fake as Elizabeth Holmes trying to sound like a man when she was running Theranos.
Like Chip Kelly saying family.
Yeah, or Brian Kelly talking about y'all. But at least with Kirby, you can say, well, he's been in Georgia or he's been in the South for decades.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I mean, so Georgia made adjustments in this game versus the SEC championship game. So I will give them credit for that. And we obviously didn't, or at least it's hard to say. We had a MASH unit out there. That's great experience for the young guys for next year.
Yeah.
So I can't be too upset at the outcome of the game.
We didn't get blown off the field. We played well until we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't get ref balled, which
Yeah. Well,
Much.
there were a few that I could complain
there
about.
there were some PI calls left on the
Yeah,
field.
definitely.
I felt like, and I know Georgia there was like there were Georgia fans throwing stuff on the field after the scoop.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
but you look at the replay. He caught the ball and his foot was in. It looked like it was out from our side, from the viewer side, but then when they came around, they're like, no, the balls of his toes are planting that foot before his foot rolls
Yep.
forward over the line.
And dude had no idea he just recovered a fumble.
No, indeed. And I think if he'd had presence of mind, he'd have snapped it, grabbed it, pulled it into him, and run into the end zone. The only time I've ever seen something similar to that, and Ghost of Bear Bryant, please forgive me for saying this, but last year when we were playing LSU had a long pass TD, and their receiver, like 2 steps before the goal line, spiked the ball down.
Yeah.
Now another team member ran up and picked it up and stepped over.
Right.
With it, so there was no question. But he absolutely dropped that ball outside the end zone.
Yes, he did.
And I just, that's the closest comparison I can think of to, oh yeah, well, no, I guess. So in the overall, my thoughts on the Bulldogs game. It wasn't our night. It didn't hurt as bad as losing because of 4 uncalled pick plays. It wasn't a blowout like the national championship game that shall not be named.
Yep.
We did not play to the blade and lose 45-48 on a field goal that we shouldn't have let them get in position to make.
Correct.
It was simply a football game that we didn't win.
Yeah.
When the final gun was sounded, they had more points. They had an effective touchdown more.
Yeah.
The quote-unquote dagger was just, take away a desperation play, and this goes down as a kind of mundane national championship game. But Bulldogs, hold your heads up.
Yeah.
It only took you 41 years. I was in grade school the last time you guys won a national title.
Yeah,
the Cold War
here.
was still on. Reagan was in office. The most powerful computer you could buy ran at 1 megahertz and had 128 kilobytes of memory. No, excuse me, 64 kilobytes. Wait a minute. Was it 1981? Was their last national title?
It was 1980.
1980. Oh, so the Commodore 64 wasn't even out yet.
No,
so
it
yeah,
wasn't.
you could get a 32K Apple II.
Yeah. Or a VIC 20.
Or a VIC 20, my computer of choice, which I didn't even get till 2 years later. VCRs were still multi-$1,000 machines, and
Hey, Betamax was a thing.
Betamax was a thing. Betamax was still a thing. We were closer to the reality shown in Happy Days than not.
True.
Nobody in their right mind would have walked up and said, yeah, the Soviet Union's going out of business in 9 more years. We were in the middle of the Cold War, so...
Yeah, it'd been a stretch for them, and of course they've been close a few times, but it's a very hard hill to climb.
Yes.
And like I said, let's see. With the addition of Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC and the possibility of division realignments, and the most common one that I've seen is they're going to move Alabama and Auburn to the east.
I don't want to play in the SEC least. We'll
Well,
never lose a game. We'll just win all the time.
We get to play Georgia every year, though. Or most every year. I don't know. They're talking about pods and stuff. Who knows? That's a discussion for another show.
Yeah. You know what? That would be great fodder for the A-Day live stream, which, by the way, folks, I know it's a long time off. We will build some hype. It's been an okay season for us, but we will build some hype, and the A-Day game is going to be a lot of fun. I want I want to wrap up because we're kind of coming to the top of the hour.
Okay.
I want to wrap up on a negative note. I want to leave the 2021 season on a bad note. Aggie Hall, you bitched and whined and complained on Twitter. You threw tantrums. You stomped your little feet. You threw such a fucking fit that Nick Saban saw fit to sit you up by the teacher's desk during an entire game and made you stand there and showed you why you weren't out on the field and made you pay attention. And you had the temerity to go out and make another snark tweet, another, ooh, is he going to leave kind of tweet. And yet you still, now when the transfer portal is blown wide open and you could slither out, I guess you're sticking around. Hall, 3 times in the red zone, you could have won us that game. You could have put the dagger in George's back, and you dropped the fucking football. Leave. Get out. You wanted to go. Go. Don't let us hold you back. Clearly, Alabama. Go play for the A&M Rattlers down here in Florida. Go play for USF. There's that little Baptist college in Alabama, Samford. Maybe they need a receiver. Paul Tyson, you low-down, traitorous snake. How dare you? How absolutely dare you? Your grandfather was the coach of this team during one of its 2 titanic eras. All you had to do was tee up a football, and apparently you couldn't even do that. So I could make the case that you cost us the game against Texas A&M, which is a little bit unfair, but I'm in high dudgeon right now, so fair doesn't enter into the discussion. So instead of hanging around, instead of staying in, is this the lesson that you took from your grandfather? I can't imagine that it is. So you've entered the quitter hole. I can't even believe that. You had every opportunity. There's going to be a season between now and whenever you would have graduated when every man on this team will have a nice, fat, chunky piece of jewel-encrusted jewelry to wear on their hands. You won't have one. Not with an A on it. So enjoy your time at, I don't know, Notre Dame, people have said. Yeah. I bet that would please your grandpa to no end. Why don't you just drop any pretense of honor and go play for Ohio State? So, yeah, that angers me more. Well, the loss to Georgia doesn't even anger me. This is what I'm angry about. These 2 guys. Hall, you're staying in. You'd better pick it up, buddy. You had better step up.
Well, what about Billingsley? How do you feel about that?
I'll get us kicked off YouTube if I go into that. So I'm gonna let you have the last word. We've got 5 more minutes, and I want you to sum up your feelings.
So, well, I can't be that upset at Paul Tyson. He's going to graduate this spring, so he's just more of a normal grad transfer as opposed to, a freshman that didn't get any playing time that wants to just go find greener pasture somewhere else. He's been there 3 years, and he does have a ring with an A on it. So
okay, all right. You know what? You're absolutely
right. He just doesn't
right.
have one. He didn't really. I mean, he did. He was the holder, right? So
fair enough. I apologize.
Yeah,
Paul.
Paul And then in full disclosure, my son plays for Hewitt Trustful, and him and Paul were buddies when they were on the team together. And I've talked to Paul a couple of times. He's a good kid,
Okay.
and so I mean, I'm not like saying like I know him, but I have talked to him, and my son knows him. So
Then I will ease up on them hammers and
yeah,
formally
yeah.
apologize for my
The
vitriol.
the Aggie Hall situation, I stay away from Twitter with like it's worse than the coof. Okay,
Right.
I don't want to get us in trouble by saying the actual word, but it's worse than the coof.
Andromeda strain is
Yes.
my go-to.
And because Twitter is just ridiculous. It's a cesspool. So a lot of the things that happen on there, I'm just not aware of. And I'm just hoping that Mr. Hall has seen the light, right? We're talking about 18, 19-year-old kids, and sometimes it takes a whole season, sometimes longer, for that light to go off. And then everybody pay attention to the example that was set by one Mr. Mac Jones, who patiently waited behind it seemingly a revolving door of higher rated quarterbacks and ended up being one of the best that there's ever been at the university. So just, and that's recent history. That's not like that happened years ago. So, but I think this whole transfer portal thing is something we're going to have to get used to, Bill. It's here. We're going to see this more and more, and it's all and Coach Saban warned us about this. It's free agency. Don't think that he's not going to use it to his advantage, because they made this legal, which means that he's allowed to recruit the players that are available to replace the ones that can't make the field. He's going to recruit players that can make the field. So, it's a double-edged sword when it comes to that.
Sure. And I mean, I know it's a double-edged sword, and there are people who would have just as much vitriol about their play. Like, I'm sure if tomorrow a key player from Cincinnati or Georgia came to Alabama, their fans would be just as angry as I am right now about this situation. You brushed me back in probably the most gentle manner possible about Paul Tyson. There were facts I was not entirely aware of about his transferal, but about this being seen. For some reason, I had it in my head that he was a junior this year.
Well, I mean, technically he may be, but these guys with the way that they do classes, they can graduate in 3 years. A lot of these guys do graduate in 3 years.
Yes.
So
all kidding aside, then, as we top the hour, I think John Alford, who made our only comment tonight, and this will get kicked around, it'll get views, but John Alford said it best. I'm proud of the team. And
yeah.
Did you see at the presser that it was Nick, Bryce, and why have I gone blank all of a sudden? It was Nick,
Mr. Anderson,
Bryce, and Anderson. They said their piece and they got up to leave, and he stopped them and thanked them.
Yes, I did see that. That was you could tell that the coach really cares about the players and the team and not just the record.
Well, I may have accidentally knocked some dust off a shelf when I was moving around my office watching that on stream.
Yeah.
I may have got a little dust in my eyes during that. To the Alabama Crimson Tide for 2021, you guys, thank you. Thank you for an outstanding season. Thank you for entertaining us for essentially nothing, because, I mean, we can talk about NIL and everything else, but you know, the majority is most of those young men don't get the NIL deals. So thank you so much. Thank you, Coach Saban, for a great season. And it was a great season. And next season is going to be even better. This was the rebuilding year. We had no expectations for this season. Thank you to our fans who've listened into the show, particularly those of you who got up at, sometimes, depending on your time zone, 6 o'clock in the morning to listen to us.
Yeah, whose idea was that?
I don't know, but that guy is not with the show anymore. I don't think. But thank you to my crew. Thank you. I say my crew, the rest of the crew. Thank you to you, Bo. Thank you to Big John. Thank you to Jess for transferring, for entering the transfer portal so we could recruit you early in the season. It was a hell of a ride, and we'll see you guys for the A-Day game. Any final thoughts for you, sir?
Just roll tide. I'll echo all of that. Thanks for doing this, Bill. It's been fun. I know I haven't made every show, but that's why there's more than one of us here. And I'm looking forward to the A-Day show, and looking forward to next year. I'm thinking that my situation is going to change a little bit, and next year it's going to be different from my perspective as far as this show goes. So.
Really? Well,
yeah.
We'll have to talk about that in the office. Yeah. A little mystery there. Oh, Jess wants to do National Signing Day, guys, so there might be a National Signing Day show too.
That'd be cool.
Just fairly warned, BE, says I. So with that said, good night, God bless, and roll tide.
Roll tide.